A very good morning, fellow Trojans. How are you? Yes. Welcome back to this room, still in Bali, but we are indoors, so everything is good, yeah? We're gonna enjoy Bali later on. But today, we are very excited to begin our panel session. But before, how are you? Good. You have a good breakfast earlier this morning? Okay, so we're gonna learn a little bit of Balinese words. If I say, how are you? In Bali, we say, Punapi Gatra. And you will reply me with, Becik, becik. Okay? Can you do that? Okay, becik, becik means, I'm good, okay? Alright? Punapi Gatra? Alright, good on you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning, or as we, the Balinese say, Om Swastiastu. To all our fellow Trojan and friends and honorable panelists, welcome to the second day of Asia Pacific Business Forum Indonesia 2022, presented by USC and USC Marshall School of Business IBER MBA program. Back again with me, Denisha Sinai, your Master of Ceremony. I'm very delighted to meet you again after our festivities of the night on our dinner occasion. And ladies and gentlemen, as the aim of this forum to be a learning moment for our fellow Trojan in embracing the change, adapt and adjust to sustain the new normal. So today we will have a lot of various perspectives from our panelists. Before we start, allow us to give a little bit highlight and hospitality arrangement information. Today we will have 4 panel sessions and a business matchmaking session at the very end of our panel session. And our agenda will conclude around 5 p.m. this afternoon, followed by dinner at Pandan Sari Restaurant Jimbaran Beach, located at the beach area within walking distance from the back or beach area of this hotel. We will have a 15 minutes break in between the panel session for both morning and also afternoon session, and coffee and snacks already provided at the foyer area of this room. As for the networking lunch session, will be located at the same area you had your breakfast this morning. Without further ado, let us start our panel session of the day. First of all, to warm up our morning, when I say fellow Trojan, you say? Fight on! Fellow Trojan! Fight on! Fellow Trojan! Fellow Trojan! Alright, give a big round of applause for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Fellow Trojan and friends, we'll start our first panel session in the topic of New Age Innovation. Business all over the world are entering the new age of innovation and growth, and the pace of change is accelerating. Our panelists will share their experiences and their expectation of change yet to come. Allow me to introduce you to our moderator of this panel. Mr. Will Scott is a self-proclaimed cultural Czars who has studied, researched, and adopted corporate culture strategies to develop his proprietary 9-step process to transform an organization. He's passionate about creating an environment where people thrive so that can be. Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin the first panel session of New Age of Innovation. Please welcome Mr. Wilson.
Second time lucky, yes. Well, good morning. Welcome to Innovation and Growth, and of course here in our Asia Pacific Business Forum. This panel is particularly exciting though because we have representatives from all the continents of the globe. Our panel have come here today from Los Angeles and Tokyo, from Jakarta, from Chicago, from Singapore, and even from Israel. Yes, I also have the distinct joy to be on stage here with 2 of my fellow IBER classmates, IBER 16, How many panels can say that? In fact, we thought the three of us would just hang out here and tell stories from 1993 and 1994, but in the end we went with the program and we allowed Doug and Kevin to join us. So I'm going to keep the introductions pretty short because we're already a good bit of time into our panel time here together. So I'm going to start by asking Paul Wilson to come up here. Paul Wilson, amazing. Yes, of course. Please, thank you. Yeah. Paul has come from Singapore. Now, Paul, if you want to talk tech, Paul, of course, he's with Google now, but he's also been with Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, and probably the other major tech firms in the region. So, welcome, Paul. Next, let's have Doug come up here. Doug, you're probably going to enjoy Doug's content a lot because he's in the exciting space of, yes, of course, applause, yes, movies and Hollywood, and particularly helping non-American companies and cultures bring their movies to the big screen. So that should be pretty cool, right? And then let's have Dror come up here. Dror from Israel. That's 30 years of training to say his name the right way.
You know, we had Will in the class and we didn't need to speak, you know, Will did all the speaking for us.
So, Dror comes from Israel and big time guy in the investment space. He's many firsts in Israel in terms of technology funds that he started. And we're going to very interested to hear him. Also, his views can be a little different from everybody else's. So let's see what surprises Dror has for us today. Yes. And finally, Kevin Cahya, please come up here from Jakarta. Yeah. Now, Kevin's probably the youngest on the group, and I'm probably the oldest. But Kevin, undergraduate from USC, welcome to our stage. Very big, of course, in what the cool kids are doing, which is Web3. Welcome to our panel for innovation and growth. Do you have a mic, Paul? Make sure that mic is ready to go. Yes, so the format here is we're going to let each of my panelists talk for 30 seconds about what they do today in their business, and then present on their subject, their take on innovation and growth. And so we'll go through that, and then we'll get into questions. So,
Great, thank you, Will. It's a pleasure to be here. A little bit about myself. As Will noted, I've worked for technology companies in Asia since graduating from Avarik way back when. My current responsibilities are with the cloud computing division of Google, and the customer segment that I support is public sector, so government, healthcare, education, research, and so on. And I think we're going to cue up the presentation. So while we get started, the joy of working for a company that's so broad and so deep in terms of technology is that you have a lot of material and a lot of options of things to talk about. The challenge is to make it, bite-sized so it conveys some thoughts that might be relevant to you. Let's go to that. So that's where I work.
And he's feeling lucky.
What's interesting behind that search bar, though, is speed, security, and simplicity. You don't need a user's manual to go out and to try to access information. But in addition to search, the company I work for does a lot of research as well. Some of that you're familiar with. We have solutions that you're using probably daily, maps, but we also have autonomous vehicles. We have organizations that support urban planning. But really at the core of this is that the company is an engineering company at its core. And there's a lot of engineering, technology, and research that really gets put into the products that you experience on a daily basis. We can go to the next slide. What I wanted to talk about, though, you've heard the themes like artificial intelligence, so just a couple of minutes on AI. AI is a very broad theme. The way to think about artificial intelligence, it's an algorithm that exhibits intelligence through decision making. Machine learning is a subset of AI. Machine learning is really taking large amounts of data, or data sets, algorithms, and trying to do some predictions and self-learning. So machine learning is a very, very applicable and relevant technology set for our daily lives. Go to the next slide. So I've just got a couple of examples to illustrate the point. Complex systems such as utilities or transportation system throw off huge amounts of data, and often that data sits in different silos and isn't very useful. The ability to use machine learning and AIs, you can actually look for anomalies. You can look for things that are out of the ordinary, which in turn can be used to great benefits, such as predicting failure on complex machine systems, or being able to enable city planners to have more efficient transportation systems for their constituents. And even if we're using things such as interfacing with contact centers or documents, or there's different subsets of AI, document AI, visual AI, all of which is really meant to take huge amounts of data, make it so there's intelligence from that data, which is why I was really struck by Professor Voigt's comments yesterday, for those who were in the master class. But this is kind of where things are going. That AI used to be this thing that was very special, and the thought looking to the future is AI really is going to be embedded. It's embedded in chipsets, it's embedded in technologies and applications that people are using and developing for goods and services that we'll use. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, if you can cue up my sizzle reel.
Doug Montgomery's slides, please.
If it works.
Voted an honorary Academy Award, Akira Kurosawa.
Oscar goes to Parasite.
Okay, I can assure you it's all downhill from there because it's all bullet points, bar graphs, and pie charts now. Anyway, I'm going to ask a question right now. What is the one thing that's similar in that entire scissor reel? Does anybody know? Anybody? Okay, not a single one of those movies or TV shows was made in English. They're all foreign language. So it kind of fits today, right? It fits the Iber theme. But what I want to talk about, I'm going to be mixing, quite frankly, what I do and also what I want to talk about. But I'll get back to the foreign content in a second. This is my firm, Global Connects Media. I spent 16 years with Warner Brothers, working all over the world. I know a ton of people in the media business, and now with my own consultancy, I am working with these different partners and clients in trying to make their content global and trying to integrate them into Hollywood. Next slide, please. All right, on the left-hand side, your right, my left, there are three people. The guy, maybe Dick, can you recognize one? Or you might recognize two, but one person, can you recognize? The other one. That is Brian Harris. Okay, Brian Harris is, I believe, and Dick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's the first marketing professor of IBER 1. And Brian Harris, in the middle is my ex-boss at Warner Brothers, Jay Reinbold. He is a Marshall PM, and then myself as an IBER 25. Brian Harris created a business process called category management. I'm not going to go into the details about what it is. It basically does three things. It helps the company manage this business by considering where are we, where do we want to go, and how do we get there. The guy in the middle, Jay Reinbold, studied category management at Marshall PM in 2000, and he brought the concept to entertainment. And we took this concept of measuring entertainment with data from back in the day, it was VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to DVDs online with Amazon. By the way, you're like my client at like 4 different companies. To streaming video. But at the end of the day, what I do, I help companies get integrated into Hollywood by using data to tell a story, by using the data to present opportunities, and by using data to forecast the future. Next slide, please. This is a personal passion project of mine. It's called Global Stage Hollywood. It's a film festival that I created. And the idea is we are providing a stage for diverse content from all over the world. On the top left-hand side is a man, his name is Akira Nishino, the gentleman in the middle with the microphone. He actually created he is an ex-comedian from Japan, but he created a movie called Poopel to Chimneytown. It was shortlisted for the animated Oscar. But he created it basically using Web3 concepts, but he did it in 2017. He left his comedy duo in Japan. He had a bunch of fans. He had 200,000 followers on Twitter. He wanted to go the next stage of his career, and he found a way to monetize and engage those fans and create this thing called Poopel to Chimneytown, which in 2021 was shortlisted for the animated Oscar. And in 2024, he will have a show, a live Broadway show. So the guy has been extremely successful, basically using Web3 concepts, which I think Kevin will talk about a little bit later himself. In the bottom right-hand corner is director Liu Yi-an. He directed what is Taiwan's best animated feature for the Oscar, Goddamn Asura. He also has used Web3 concepts in his film. On the far left is actually Cinema Sabaya. It is Israel's submission for best animated Oscar. And then in the middle is Miss Universe Japan in the wedding dress. She's a very beautiful woman, so I put her there. There's nothing to do with Web3, but what can I say? All right, next slide. All right, so foreign content. Foreign content is red hot in Hollywood. You don't need to know all the little details on the bar chart. I told you there'd be a bar chart. The fact is the bar chart's growing. That's all you need to know. The bar chart's growing up and to the right. That's a very important concept. The big piece in that actually is red. That is Japanese content. Japanese content as measured as demand. And this is one of my partners, Parrot. They measure demand by basically scraping the internet and looking for what they call demand signals, Facebook likes, Google searches, piracy downloads, etc. Based on demand, Japanese content is the most popular in the United States, primarily due to anime. But also there's other growing pieces. Korean content also is red hot. Turkish content is getting more popular, etc., etc. Why I'm bringing this up? Because as I mentioned earlier, I do consult for companies and try to get them integrated in Hollywood. This is an international forum. And also the film festival where I put this stuff on the stage in Hollywood. But it is very popular. And go to the next slide. And it leads into how you can move the needle forward for your own countries or whatever your own passion is. And that is community. You can see on the top left-hand side, that is the Consul General Akira Muto from Japan at Anime Expo in 2022. And you can look at all the fans behind him. Those are all the anime geeks that showed up to the LA Convention Center on July 1st. I was there. The LA Fire Department had to close the hall down because they actually oversold it, and they came in and they closed it. So Anime Expo this year, for the first time live in 3 years, was sold out all 4 days. I think the city of LA probably needs to give an award to Anime Expo for downtown revitalization, because this event, not surprisingly, ended up being a super spreader, and about half of the guests that came to Japan caught COVID and they couldn't go back. They had to quarantine in the LA hotel for 2 weeks. So LA downtown owes Anime Expo big time. Anyway, on the top left is Batman. Those are Batman NFT cowls. And again, speaking to the power of community, when I was at Warner Brothers, we knew that, and this is a long story, but we knew that there's 120,000 Batman fans, super fans in the US who will buy anything Batman. You could quite frankly put a piece of dog shit on the shelf and you call it Batman and somebody's gonna buy it. There's 120,000 of those core fans. When the new Batman movie came out in this spring, Warner Brothers quickly pumped out these NFT Batman cowls, 200,000 pieces of it, digital collectibles, and they sold out within 3 days, right? It was $300 a digital cowl. That was $60 million incremental revenue for Warner Brothers. So there is, despite the crypto winter we're in, there is a future there. And then on the bottom, your right would be, Korean content, and that is just absolutely on fire. And this is an announcement that came out yesterday. Korean content is selling 75 different dramas to Fox's Fast network called Tubi. Next slide, please. So the question is innovation, and how can you do this? Earlier, I think we mentioned about how innovation is accelerating. I can tell you what's accelerating in Hollywood, and that is the downward trend of everybody's stock. The business is terrible. This is a terrible time for Hollywood. But on the innovation side, it is the time to develop new business models. And the belief is that if you develop a business model and you focus it on community, you focus it on, kind of the promise of Web3 in creating community, creating relationships with your fans that are productive, that are also two-way, that you can grow your business. And I think that is where the next phase of Hollywood and entertainment will grow. The last thing I'll say here that's important is this concept of a super user. And if you look on the bar chart on your left, super users comprise about 22% of the population, but they are, you can see here, 44% of the spend of video. They are 80% of the spend of gaming, and they are 80% of the music spend. So if you had to focus on a community, find out who your super user is and serve them as well as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Next, Dror, do you have some slides?
Coming after the dog is not actually given, it's a very hard bar, so I need to stand, so it's a real pleasure coming here, and actually I can say it's actually a very special trip for me. I got actually exposed to Indonesia while I was actually in the program, and since then I was actually wanted to come to Indonesia, and even my wife actually decided to join me this time. So it's a real pleasure, and thank you, Dick, for the invitation and for the organizers of this event. I'm Dror, and actually I'm running a secondary fund in Israel, and I'll make sure that Doug understands what is the secondary with a few slides. And we are from Israel. My fund, and we actually currently have over $500 million of assets under management. We investing in technology, growth stage company, Israeli related, and we are, for over 12 years, we are in the top quartile, the global top quartile funds globally. Since we actually established, we did close to 90 transactions. We invested in over 220 companies, and we have over 50 exits. Next slide, please. What is secondary? Doug, this is really especially for you. We are the eBay of the technology ecosystem in Israel. Building a company in Israel takes between 8 to 13 years. So there are lots of stakeholders that need some type of liquidity. We are the one that actually provide liquidity to investors, to employees, to founders, and managers. We're buying investors in other funds, and we're buying also stakeholders in companies. A few years ago, when you're actually holding a company, you're holding a traded stocks in Amazon or Google or Facebook, you can easily sell your position in the market. Holding a private stocks in a private company, you're basically stuck there. And it took us a very long time to educate the market to that actually it's a fair and actually it makes sense for you to liquidate some of your position. The overall industry is about $180 billion globally. I can tell you that we are about 180 buyers globally that's actually doing secondary. Only less than 20 are specializing in technology, and I would say handful of groups globally doing what we do, which actually relative early stage secondaries in technology. Just 1 second before, I want to go to the previous slide. We do also structured secondary, and actually this is actually very important. It's a very well-known secret that funds are being established for 10 years, but none of those funds will be liquidated in 10 years. It usually takes around, on the VC and growth stage funds, it takes between 15 to 18 years to fully liquidate, and therefore we can actually coming at the close to the end of the term, the original terms, and we provide liquidity to the existing investors. We extend the term of the funds, and we actually allow them to raise more capital to support the existing portfolios. Next slide, please. Israel is the land of innovation. We are the second leading technology hub globally. You won't actually imagine that even now when all of you actually using this cell phones, ton of technology is coming from Israel. If you're using iPhone, your gestures is actually coming from Israel. Your video compression is coming from Israel. If you are, cherry tomatoes that we actually ate this morning in breakfast was actually invented and created in Israel. Your firewalls, your Intel CPUs are coming from Israel. And there are tons of technology actually coming from Israel. Next slide, please. And this is the reason we have 330 R&D centers in Israel of all global players. There is no single global player that does not have R&D center in Israel. And I think actually this is actually part of the fun that you see in Israel. If you're coming to where my office is in the suburb of Tel Aviv, it really looks like Palo Alto. You see all those big names from Google to Microsoft to Intel to Samsung to Baidu to many of those companies. Actually, all of them actually have offices in Israel. Next, please. Just actually, on a global scale, we have the highest engineers per capita. Although we are only 9 million people and the workforce is about 3.5 million people, which is actually a small, it's not even the vicinity of LA. We are responsible for 15% of the unicorns globally. We are by far, in terms of investment per capita, we are by far the highest in the world. Next slide, please. Just actually to show, in the last decade, investors actually invested in Israel did over 4x on their investment in the last decade. Every year, exit actually exceeded the amount actually being invested in Israel. Next, please. This is actually where we actually get into the interesting part. Israel, like anywhere in the world, we see substantial decline in VC investment globally. And this is actually the global, and Israel is actually exactly the same. Between the Q4 last year and the current quarter, we have a decline of 53%. Here's actually, I know it's actually a very financial graph. So at November last year, software company that actually grew up faster than 50%, traded at 57, at a multiple of 57 on their revenues. Today, it's still 15 times their revenue. So companies that are fast-growing company are continue to be traded very highly, and the average currently is 7x on revenue. Next slide, please. Will ask me some of the interesting investment that we are currently doing. So we are, cybersecurity is continuing to be substantial. We do see some global expansion in cyber. You know, cyber become a major threat to companies and to countries. We see country-level threats this year, and obviously it's actually representing substantial threat to all of our businesses. Digital health obviously is a major, but the pandemic actually gave a very strong boost to digital health. Construction tech, you know, we are basically doing, we building, or we do the planning of building, and all plans are being digital, but all control is actually being done still manually. So there are now AI, we're going back to AI, so we're actually bringing AI to the construction world. Travel, you see that, we do see that people continue to travel, but they're actually traveling more locally. So we actually invested in companies that are actually supporting travel locally. Clean tech, there's actually a very interesting company, weather, and we will discuss it maybe on our next panel. Weather actually it's a major issue now. It's actually the global warming is a substantial threat to businesses and countries. So investing in weather algorithm basically actually helped a lot of companies. It's quite amazing that small company from Israel, their major clients are companies like Google. Gaming, you know, gaming is basically immune to recession, and we do see during the pandemic and during current recession that people continue to invest and spend a lot of money in gaming, which actually go back to what Doug actually just mentioned. So those are the super users, and actually quite amazing to see that gaming companies are continue to do very well. And I'll just add one more subject, is the sport tech. Sport tech is actually also people continue to watch sport, and actually adding value in the sport is actually something that people actually appreciate a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Dror. Kevin.
Well, thank you so much. I think this is a perfect setup because like Dror finished up the presentation with the gaming industry, and I'm in Web3 games. So yeah, hello everyone. I'm Kevin from Avarik Saga. Just a little bit background of myself. My background is in management consulting. I used to work for BCG, and I used to work for a venture capital company as well, based in Singapore called East Venture. And back in the days, it's where myself got exposed to the new innovation and technological companies, whereby in East Ventures, we invested total of I think more than 1,000 companies up until right now, and me myself invested back when I were in East Venture, we invested in 8 companies. One of it is the leading crypto exchange company in Indonesia, which is Indodex, and that's where I got myself into the exposure in Web3 space and blockchain technology. And that was back in 2015. And up until now, I think the innovation in the blockchain space is very rapidly growing. And what the biggest challenge is right now is how the Web3 space can tap into the mass audience. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, this more towards like the growth or the story of innovation, right? It started with Web 1 until Web 3. Web 1 started back in the 1990s, whereby it's just, most of the website is just one-way interaction. It's primarily a content base where the users is basically the consumer of the content. And up until the Web 2 era, which is like starting from 2005 to 2020, 19, that's where the Web 2 space come in. The major change or the biggest difference compared to Web 1 is the interaction, whereby right now the users are the one become the product of the technology itself, where the users transfer the data and information to the site, and the site, as mentioned before, process the information to give a better output or better decision making to the users. And Web3 comes in early 2018, 2019, where it's because of a lot of users or a lot of customers feels their privacy or information being used without consent, and also some of the users are feels they don't have any privacy. And so that's where Web3 comes in 2018, 2019. And that's where the blockchain technology and decentralization comes. Next slide, please. And the challenge for Web3 itself, definitely the challenge is mass adoption for now. The technology itself, I think it's something that will always be there because it's solving the greatest world challenge, which is the trust issue. But currently, Web3 projects or Web3 companies still having a challenge. We categorize as 5 different challenges. The first one is lack of real utility. Second one is currently Web3 projects have unsound UI and UX. Third is more towards like lack of interoperability, whereby assets in one ecosystem in Web3 is not applicable or usable in another Web3 ecosystem. 4 is more towards lack of security, and there are a lot of scams in Web3 space. And 5th is definitely a lack of education that we can see right now in Indonesia alone. We only have around 10 million blockchain wallets, which is just 4% of the total population just in Indonesia alone. So we are here. We in Avarik Saga we're building a Web3 game that has a mission to educate Web3 or blockchain technology to the mass audience in Indonesia. And in 2021, we saw the first wave of Web3 games already come to the market. We saw like Axie Infinity, the Sandbox, Decentraland has already tapped into the market, trying to find the mass audience playing or using Web3 technology. But there are 2 major challenges that the Web3 games are facing. The first one is the games has not have the quality yet, or it's not par yet in terms of quality to the Web2 game. And second is more towards the tokenomics or the economics inside of the game and combining it to the token. So these are the challenges that will be solved with the second wave of Web3 game. And what we're building is a game that can solve these 2 major challenges, which the game need or should be par compared to other Web2 games. So the user interface or the user experience when players or gamers playing the game is very similar with players playing Web2 game. And second is more towards like how we are making a sustainable economy inside of the game, meaning that we should really not use the term of play to earn anymore going forward. Meanwhile, like we are using a blockchain technology as the core technology behind the game. So only using blockchain technology as the distribution system of the game instead of making it as a jargon to make people play the game and earn. So we established in 2021. Total overall we raised $7.5 million up until now. And then currently we are still building the game. We're estimating to launch late 2022 which our main target market is emerging market countries, especially Southeast Asia. So, yeah, thanks. It's a RPG game, a casual RPG game.
Very cool, Kevin. Thank you very much. Can we start the microphone? Yeah. Yes, what do you think about this panel? We've heard about Web3, NFTs, blockchain, artificial intelligence. Our panel, ladies and gentlemen. Another round of applause, please. Yes, thank you. So please think about what questions you might have for our panel. I'll get us started. I'm going to go down here and get one question for each of our panelists. So please get ready with your questions. Paul, thank you for your introduction. Could you tell us about a practical application of AI that we would all understand that's happening today? And then maybe talk about where the future of AI is going.
So if you're using maps on your phone, you're using artificial intelligence. It's just kind of a simple way, but to restate, the way to think about artificial intelligence is not some, iRobot, computers are going to control the world. It's really to think about how do you make best use of this tremendous amount of data. In fact, some of the themes that we heard in terms of interoperability, how do you take information that's kind of sitting there in silos? I'll give you kind of a decent example, maybe closer to where we went to school. This goes back in the first phases of when there was almost a false reopening in COVID. In Huntington Beach, was working with my employer, with Google, to try to understand what would happen if they made some policy decisions. What would happen if they kind of opened up the beaches, and what would that all mean? So the ability to understand what people are looking for searches, looking for sentiment or sentiment analytics, to be able to do some predictive analysis about what that would mean for bus routes, what would that mean for replenishment of PPE equipment, which was to scrub down the buses and the areas that were of common use. To put all of that together in a way that could create some scenarios for policymakers to think about and make decisions on is a good use of disparate sources of data, much of it coming in real time and changing real time, and be able to present it in a way that provides actionable or insights which could lead to actionable and best decisions for policymakers. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Doug, I know you're quite proud about a white paper that you're coming out on shoppable TV. But what about investment in the industry, particularly foreign movie industry, and especially how is advertising going to look different going future in this industry?
Well, advertising is going to look very different, but even before advertising looks different, just get used to it because advertisements are coming back to your TV. So the days of Netflix with no ads at the price you're paying is changing rather quickly. As I mentioned, entertainment is actually really struggling at the moment because nobody was making any money for a number of years, and Wall Street put the brakes on. This April, when Netflix came out, they couldn't grow their subs anymore. So the model of scale, and forget how you make money later, those days are over, and now you have to make money. So how advertising and, quite frankly, AI will be used to make money going forward is that television is likely to become more and more interactive, kind of like you would find on YouTube or even a video game, and become much more personalized. And that will be actually done by the television set, the device owners, kind of watching and analyzing what you do and putting ads in front of you that are relevant to you. The promise is, the goal would be that back in the day when you watched an hour of TV and your poor little eyeballs were exposed to 18 minutes of commercials, the advertisers got a certain ROI on that, but nobody liked it. So when Netflix came out and had 0 ads, everybody liked it, but like I said, they didn't make any money. So the pendulum flips back. And now, going forward, the promise is that with 4 or 5 minutes of ads in an hour, that people can make a good return, and then everybody's happy. Consumers don't get exposed to 20 minutes of ads, only 4, and advertisers get some kind of return on their money, and that will come in the form of shoppable TV, where you're watching your favorite TV show, and Jennifer Aniston's looking there all beautiful and pretty, and you can click on her sweater and buy it instantly, and everybody's happy. That's the goal. We'll see if it works.
Wow. Okay.
I'll add to what actually Doug just said. We're actually investing in a very interesting company called WSC. And WSC is basically changing the way we're actually watching sport. The idea is that actually they're sitting on the stream of the sport. They're basically cutting every single frame, and they're personalizing. So they can, if they know that I'm actually a fan of specific group of specific sport team, and I'm actually a fan of a specific player, they will actually send me a specific, like a promo of a specific game, and I can buy only section of the game. I can buy only section of the player that actually I'm interested in, and they're doing it in all sports and all channels. And any major league now is their clients, and most broadcasters actually is their clients.
That sounds like a lot of fun, Dror, and I could go down that rabbit hole. But let's talk about something that's kind of a bit more serious and present today, this whole thing of cybersecurity. And you're seeing investment come into that space. You're seeing that as a business opportunity, right? But how big is the threat?
Cyber is actually what is actually very interesting to see, that companies continue to invest substantial amount in cyber, and because of the threat. Now, there is no single platform today or single solution that actually can get us immune. And usually, when there is a threat, there is a reason for those companies to invest substantial amount of money. And we can see that in the pandemic and the recent years, we see countries that actually organize, I would say, terrorists that actually operate by countries and by large terror groups that are actually using it for blackmail large companies. And as the threats actually become substantial, we see companies continue to invest substantial amount in this area. And innovation is the way to find a solution for that, because there's always the run to find the new way to find a solution for the threat that you're actually coming in front of you. I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dror. Okay. Kevin, seeing as where we are right here in Indonesia right now, before I go to your question, would you tell us a little bit about what's going on with unicorns in Indonesia? It was up on your slide there. Name a couple of them and what's going on for those unicorns in Indonesia.
Right now, I think Indonesia alone have around 8 to 10 unicorns. The major things are definitely Gojek and Tokopedia, which in the rate hailing and also e-commerce business. Second would be like Traveloka. Traveloka is in travel commerce business. Third would be in Bukalapak. Bukalapak is also another e-commerce. Fourth, we have Ruang Guru, which is in education technology, whereby they built an app to democratize and standardize the educational system in Indonesia. Top 5 would be, we'll see like Grab or even Shopee that's dominating the industry.
It's great, it's so cool, isn't it? Use the word democratization. And on this panel of innovation and growth, where we can see what technology has done to sort of flatten, long way to go, but flatten to some degree the access of people to, by using technology to, improving their lives and wealth and so on. And it's not just a Silicon Valley story anymore. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we're facing a little bit of a downturn right now, right? And maybe, investment, we saw what's happening in investment in Web3. What does the current recession mean for this technology, and also, you know, the crash of crypto and stuff. What do you think is going to happen here?
I see. As Dror has mentioned, like I think the global investment scheme is down almost like 50% right now. I think for most of the projects, not only Web3, in Web2 space or in general technology company having difficulties in raising funds right now. But I think like the overall space, the technology itself, the startups are providing value, right? It's also become a part of education process currently, and I think during the next bull market, as long as the startups or the projects knows what consumer wants and what's the next meta, we call it, like what's the next big thing, and what's the major company wants to tap in, which is like one of it is community. Like I think those companies will survive the bear market and continue to rise in the bull market, because like what we see in Web3 space especially, bear market is a time for the projects to build and launch during the bull market. Sometimes the bull market over appreciate the project, but I think yeah, it will get correct over time, and the technology will continue to be still there.
Yeah, thank you. It's great. So an entrepreneur here in a somewhat of a depressed market, still talking about a bull market. Yes, I see a hand up at the back there. Let's go to the floor for questions. Can we make sure we get a microphone over there? And please start by telling us your name and where you're from, and if you're from IBA, which IBA year were you, and then your question. Can we get him a working mic?
Thank you. My name is Deepak. I'm from IBA 45, and I'm from India. So my question is, the chat GPT is, some are saying that it has potential to change the very business model of Google. Is Google responding to it, and what are your comments on?
Sorry, before you get, can you ask the question again? What's
Chat GPT, OpenAI.
chat?
Chat GPT. It's a AI model of searching anything on.
Oh right, yeah.
OpenAI solution.
Yeah.
OpenAI.
Yeah. So thanks for the question, and good luck for the rest of your year. It's great to see you here. No, I think the broader discussion is really is the openness, right? I think kind of where I showed the chart which showed about AI kind of getting more pervasive, and it's actually going to be embedded. And you can actually even see this in chipsets now. So the chipsets that are actually getting put into data centers are actually creating that pervasiveness. I think a point that you were also kind of touching on is changing the business model of Google. It's an interesting question. Google's so deep and so broad, kind of keeping track of what Google is going to bring to the market is a challenge in and of itself. I think you have a clarification. You grab the mic again.
Yeah, so my clarification is, I'll just amplify. ChatGPT is a search engine. I can write me a report on new age of innovation, and it in 5 seconds will give me a complete report. Now Google has a search engine where I will just go and type new age of innovation, and it will give me certain pages in which I have to surf through. So the search concept of which Google started, this has already started challenging it. In 4 days, 1 million people have already started searching on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So the basic Google solution is to search something. We Google it, right? So it can change to a ChatGPT. It's a chatbot which will tell you what needs to be done. So that's the whole. My question is, how will Google respond to this kind of?
I wish I had a really comprehensive answer for you about our competitive response. I would say though that when I joined Google about 3 years ago, I underappreciated the amount of technology that was being put into things like tagging of videos, right? So you're talking about documentation. I mean, the actual tagging in real time as it's streaming information that's coming out live and being able to make that searchable to billions of people across the world is incredibly complex, right? And then add to that things in terms of content, in terms of things that you want, kids to be not exposed to and so on, creates some real complexity and challenge. So I don't have a direct answer to your question. I would say though that, as I said earlier, Google prides itself on being an engineering company. And within Google, the sales folks like me were kind of necessary, but tolerated. It's the engineers that really, I think, have to control the decisions, control the investment, the allocation, and the CEO of Google Cloud is like the engineer's engineer. You probably know of Thomas Kurian, right? I mean, Princeton, Stanford. And so I think whatever the response may be to this specific innovation, challenge is great, right? We're a challenger in the cloud computing space to my two former employers, and that makes us a better company in cloud. So, thanks for your question. Good luck.
Thank you. There's another question, two up the front and then at the back.
Thank you so much. My name is Wisnu. I'm from Indonesia. I work for government, and I'm from Aviv 45. And my question for Israel Secondary Fund, Mr. Dror. My question is, how to attract so many companies to build R&D centers in Israel?
Thank you, and again, good luck to you in the rest of the year. I think actually it's a very broad question when you speak about Israel and why Israel, such a small country, not in a very friendly neighborhood, actually succeed in this way. And I think actually part of it is actually our nature. And take into consideration, if you look on my son in the age of 18 started the army, went to a special technology unit, spent 6.5 years in the army, and then basically could actually work for anywhere. And he currently actually working for Microsoft. So from very young age, we actually taking substantial responsibility. We are doing those, this very quick course of actually education. The education system, the higher education in Israel, is actually considered to be very strong. And in general, since we're actually taking substantial responsibility in a very young age, you see substantial entrepreneurship in the country. So we are taking responsibility, we are willing to take the risk, and I think it's actually second nature to the Israelis. That's, I believe, one of the reasons this is actually we created such an environment. The second is that because we are living in such an environment, we have a substantial part of our GDP being invested in technology solution, to deal with different type of stress. And this is actually those solutions, and you see some of the technology that actually been using for civil applications are technology that have been, I would say, innovated or created for military and security reasons, that those guys that actually after they left their position went and actually developing the same technology, different civilian applications.
Thank you, Dror.
Morning, I'm Vimal Ambani from India, representing the dinosaurs from Iber 8. Question to you, Dror. You mentioned about using artificial intelligence in the real estate industry. Can you shed some more light on that, what you're looking for? And maybe Israel is known as for its technology innovations in agriculture. So are you using artificial intelligence in agriculture, or what are the major investments on that? Thank you. And I'm into investments myself, so that's more.
I'm happy to speak with you. The specific company I'm actually speaking about is BuildDots. BuildDots basically build like GoPro-like camera that people in the construction are actually putting on their hamlet, and actually with AI collecting the information, so you don't need to measure physically. The camera is actually taking the pictures during the day, and you collect tons of information during the day, which actually enable groups like Google and Intel and other very large customers to use their data to basically, when they're actually doing their own construction. So Intel building a new fab. So there is a construction going on. It's a huge investment. They're using Build.'s technology to enable the control of the construction. So you don't need to measure it physically. You know, the windows, the walls, the flat, the electricity. Actually, there is a picture that all the time actually been taken during the construction and been analyzing with a very strong computers. Agriculture is very big in Israel, both on new agricultures, new aggregations, water treatments. We are treating, because we are living in an area, we have a shortage of water. 85% of our water is being treated. So when you're flashing the water in our houses, it's not going, it's actually being treated and being using for agriculture and different, municipal use. And obviously, in the seed, there are 5 global, I would say, seed conglomerate, or not seed conglomerate, seed super countries, Switzerland, US, and others. Israel is among the 5 those super houses for seed development. So seed is actually a major issue and major, it's basically like software, if you think about seeds.
Thank you, Dror. Yes, please go ahead. Do we have the microphone at the back there? And then, when you've asked your question, please could you bring the microphone to the lady in the front row here? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ethan. I came from USC Area 45 in China. So my question is to Mr. Scott. So what's the feature of the artificial intelligence and machine learning in the healthcare pharmaceutical industry, especially for the research and development section?
Yes, go ahead, Paul. I think the question was about the future of AI in healthcare?
Yes, in the healthcare pharmaceutical industry.
Healthcare and pharmaceuticals.
I can take a shot at health. So what's interesting in healthcare now is this whole thought about population health and preventative care. So some of you might be familiar with the Fitbit device or the Apple equivalent. So the idea behind that is that there are now devices, IoT type devices, a Fitbit device is an example, that collects a lot of information about you, about different parts of your well-being, your sleep, how many steps you take, and so on. That's a device, that's a singular device. The next step is to take a platform that would be able to connect that device to other agencies, other people even. So for example, in Singapore, there's a company that's called Connected Life. They've done work here in Indonesia, they've done work in other parts of the world. Connected Life is this basic platform that's open, so it's built specifically for Fitbit, but it has open APIs so that you can take all sorts of different devices, connect to your primary care physician so that they can, with all the right security and protocols and privacy and so on, but be able to have your physician be able to give you a nudge if there's things that you need to do, if they're looking at glucose levels or so on. You can also integrate your family as being part of the caregiving kind of stakeholders. So if you have an elderly parent and you want to give a grandchild the ability to have some information about what's going on, then it again provides them connected caring zone. Sorry, I get a bit distracted. So, and the AI again is just think about a collection of data that the health industry throws off tons of data. Your EMR, your electronic medical records, things done in research. The general principle is how do you capture that data, make it so there's some insights that can be actioned upon.
I can add to that as well. We actually have a company that's called ADOC, and when we do an MRI scan, it's basically between 1,500 to 2,500 pictures. And the radiologists that actually consider to be one of the clever doctors exist are basically looking for the anomaly. This company basically helped them. They're actually specializing in actually helping them looking for the anomalies in specific disease, and it's supporting system to the doctors. So in order for the doctors to basically need to scan so many pictures, they can actually go to the places where they see there's anomaly. The software basically pointed where there's the anomalies, and they can actually analyze it. So they don't need to scan and go over the whole 2,500 pictures. They can only go to those pictures that are relevant for the decision making.
Okay, I think we just have time for maybe one more question. Please go ahead with the microphone and then pass it to somebody else so they're ready.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to ask questions. My question is to Paul. I'm Yu Zhang from Avarik 45. I just finished a research project on YouTube, how YouTube use user data to do the AI algorithms to do ad campaign. I finished this project in the airport. Yeah, it's due that day. So my question is, some people say that the data Google used to build these models is created by the users, but Google is monetizing this data to do ads to earn money. And some people say that Web3 and the blockchain is the ultimate solution to defeat these monopolies like Google to use individuals' data. So what's your comment on this kind of narrative? My second question is, I noticed that on this August, Google Singapore established a collaboration with Singapore government to strengthen AI. Could you talk more about this? Thank you.
My first comment is well done on getting your assignment completed at the airport. Yeah, so I'll make it quick. I think that the discussion about use of data, the monetization of data in Web3, actually companies like Google and Amazon will be major players in Web3. A lot of that technology needs to run somewhere. A lot of it's running in data centers that are owned by, because there's an efficiency of these cloud service providers. So great discussion about, and as Kevin was saying, I think that the emergence of Web3 technologies, it will go through different phases, but it's going to be very interesting to watch. Your second question was around August, and yes, so the Singapore government, one of the pillars of the Singapore government's growth strategies is AI. It's a national strategy. They have a national AI office. And it's a country that has continued to evolve and always think 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead. Singapore has created a national AI office to fund and to get support from industry, including players like Google, about how they can leverage the talent that's sitting within the civil servants, within the population, to fund AI-type projects. So the one that was kind of very interesting for the Ministry of Education in Singapore, and which attracted us, was to basically create a national AI tutor. The ability to assist students to be able to take data and help them become more proficient in taking exams, practicing for exams. Similar to the point that Dror was making about the research and disease and genomics, to be able to look at very specific anomalies. You can take the same thing for education. Where are students having problems generally? Where is a specific student having an issue? Where then does this teacher, maybe the parent, lean in to provide more assistance, maybe some remedial training? So I really like we'll catch up offline, but the broader debate is a more interesting one about an environment where you have monetization of data versus Web3. So we can come and talk that. Again, congrats on doing your work. Good luck for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. I noticed there were other hands up. I'm sorry we did not get to all your questions. We're actually out of time. I want to make sure you get a break before the next panel starts. Keep our day running on time. Thank you very much. But what about a hand for Paul, Doug, Dror, and Kevin? Yes, and we'd like to take a quick picture if we can just hold you where you are. How does this work? Okay.
You guys better stay.
Do we stand down there? Up here.
Alright, so ladies and
Okay,
gentlemen, quick photo, a selfie with all of you. Maybe we can have the Trojans sign together. Boleh dibantu untuk tim satu orang untuk membantu foto? Yeah, okay. And right after that, to all of our honorable panelists, please stay on stage as we will have a token of appreciation moment. Okay. We do have everybody. I think it will be best if you go a little bit down, gentlemen. Yes. We do have this very beautiful lady. Not very tall enough. Okay. In the count of 3, Trojans! Okay. One more time. Okay. And gentlemen, please, can you join back on stage as we will present you the token of appreciation. And to present the token of appreciation, we would like to kindly invite the representative from IBER student, James Na.
It's my great honor to be on behalf of the University of Southern California and USC, an IB student, to express our appreciation. We would like to present you this little token. So thank you.
Thank you very much, James Na. You are pleased to present the token of appreciation to our other panelists and speakers. It all signed as speakers. It's okay. As for your information, to all of our honorable panelists, we do only have one time token of appreciation. So if you have repeated as a panelist on the next session, you will only get a group photo. Okay. So on this token of appreciation, we have the picture symbolism of the Trojan, the mighty Trojan, and on behind as the background pictures, we have the activities of Aussie Indonesia for your memories of us. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Give a bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. It's very enlightening for us to hear the panelist sharing session for our first starting up this morning. And right after this, you're very allowed to enjoy coffee and snacks that are already provided at a foyer area of this room while having your networking session, perhaps more session, one-on-one session with all of the speakers. Thank you very much, and please come back to this room if you wish to join for our next panel session.